but it was well presented. And this speech, Shakespeare is undoubtedly the greatest dramatist, and this is a famous speech. Two speeches made by one Brutus and by Cassius. One the speech of Cassius is appeals to our reason. He tries to justify the murder of Julius Caesar because he killed Julius Caesar. Julius Caesar was killed because Julius Caesar was ambitious, and he was going to explain the necessity of killing of Julius Caesar. That speech is famous speech, and that appeals to intellect, reason. Emotional speech is delivered by Mark Antony, Brutus, for I made a mistake. Brutus and Antony, Caesar was murdered by Cassius, and Brutus is explaining the reason for murder. And Julius Caesar's friend Mark Antony is going to make an emotional speech. He is going to tell the audience that it was a very tragic event that has taken place, murder of Julius Caesar. So two speeches appeals to different psychological aspects of the audience. One appeals to reason, intellect, and another appeals to emotion. This is a famous speech. About Dr. Faustus' last scene, very tragic, and reveals Dr. Faustus' conflict. Faustus' conflict comes to the end and reaches the climax when he is going to face his death. That was his deliberate choice. He decided to sell his soul to the devil for 24 years. When the time was over, the devil arrived to take away his soul. Then he realized the mistake that he made and tried to receive God's mercy, but it was too late. He was trying to save his soul. His soul was already damned. It's too late, and that realization comes in the last scene of this play, that Faustus is going to die, but he realizes the mistake that he made, tries to repent, but the devils arrive in time to take away his soul. Now this was the speech, the last speech of Dr. Faustus, that recited or acted upon the stage by most of the cadets, and they did well. But there was a little bit of overacting, because it is no doubt that Faustus is counting his death, but also he is in conflict, and he realizes the mistake, and this conflict reaches the climax. Conflict and fear, both. But fear has not been well represented by the participants. Mostly they emphasized on this dramatic action that he is going to die, and he was shouting at himself. But that also he has a fear of death, because he is going to hell. He is afraid of hell at the last moment. That when he thinks about hell, it's a place of torture and punishment, tries to avoid it at the end. This was impressive, no doubt, because last scene, although it was a scene of conflict and fear, so the tragic scene and the tragic effect has been produced by those who acted on the stage, ending with Faustus' death of Faustus. But what I was thinking that it could have been better improved by introducing in it the element of fear in his mind. Still, the participants decided to bring out this reaction, Faustus, the reaction to the devils at the end, thinking about it. It was well represented, and this performance was undoubtedly very brilliant. All performances were good, brilliant performances made by the young students. And I have come here for another reason why that was also pointed out by my colleague yesterday, Mr. General, that when the standard of English is declining, it is very encouraging, heartening to see that standard is quite high. That the students are going to maintain the same level of standard of English. This is one encouraging aspect. That is one aspect this is one reason which brings me here in this competition, literary competition of these cadet colleges, to encourage the students and to enjoy this speeches in English, debate in English, and to see that the level is well maintained at all cadet colleges, while the average standard is going down in all other places. Even it's going down in the university, Dhaka University, where I am working, as it was pointed out by Sajan Arul Haq, that students, except a few students, most of the students are unable to follow lectures in English. But the students are well trained, and I congratulate all the speakers for their effort, and for their achievements today. And I hope they will try to keep up this tradition further and enrich the tradition further. And also I congratulate teachers also who have worked and made them. Teachers have also made a valuable contribution in the making of these brilliant students and cadets. And this is also an encouraging aspect to see that students are not only doing brilliant results, which I have seen yesterday, I have seen in the papers, not only they are academically brilliant, but in other activities, extra-academic activities, they are excellent. They are putting up their excellent performance, and they deserve congratulations for this, which is a good combination of this intellect and other activities, which will make the development of a total man. What is the purpose of institutions or education? Purpose of education is to make you a total man, to develop your personality, not only to read always, but to develop your other faculties of your personality, your intelligence, your spirit of life, and your fellow feeling that will develop from this kind of participation, which is an essential part of our education. Purpose of education not to make you bookworm, to always read and get all the first positions. That is true that you will do it, but that is another aspect of life which is also necessary, vital and necessary, connected with our life, your life. That education will develop your total personality, that will develop all your potentiality, not only in your results and your academic achievements, also in other areas of life, debate, discussions, and dramatic actions. That is the purpose of education, and the purpose of higher education. When you will go for higher education after this college, if there would have been a scope for higher education in this college, I'm sure that you would prefer to stay here. But unfortunately, after HSC, you will have to leave this institution. So you will leave this institution with a memory of these things that you have done, and that will be precious in your life. Valuable things that you have achieved in your life, you will always remember. And that higher education, purpose of higher education will be to develop a civilized attitude, that you will learn it from here. This is the beginning of your learning, or gateway to higher education. The purpose of higher education is not to memorize notes, and not to memorize teachers' notes and write answers in the examination hall. Purpose of higher education is to develop a civilized attitude. What we mean by civilized attitude? What is civilization? What is civilized attitude? Attitude of tolerance and sympathy. That is the civilized attitude. That you should try to learn it, develop it from now, and will develop more in your higher education. The result has come. You must have been you are expecting probably with tension. The tension will be over very soon. And I think this is when I look at this decision, I think decision is correct. I think this is the judge's decision. I'm going to read out now. And I told you yesterday that no decision is perfect. Human decision is not always perfect, but still we have to accept the decision made by judges, and whether it is right or wrong, we have to accept it. Because some people say the justice is blind, but still we have to accept the justice. Whatever is done is done. So I'm going to read out the results now. 10th, Shourab from Cadet College. 10th position, Shourab. 9th position, Ishtiaq from Mirzapur Cadet College. 8th, Nazir, Burishal Cadet College. Combined, 6th is combined. 6th, Saifullah from Pamna Cadet College. 6th again, Rizwan Kumilla Cadet College. 5th, Hafsain, Hinada Cadet College. 4th, Rahul, Khozarhat Cadet College. 3rd, Arif, Rangpur Cadet College. Second, ML. ML from Girls Cadet College second, and first is Rizwan, Rajshahi Cadet College. Thank you everybody today. I thank once again of this college and all the teachers of cadet colleges who are present today. And I congratulate all the cadets for participating. I have my best wishes for your bright future and bright career. I thank everybody for kind cooperation and for kind hospitality that was accorded to me. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your nice speech.
And it is still 3/4 of the total Palestine is still under Jewish control. The Jews are not the permanent inhabitant of the Palestine. If their capture over Palestine is supported by the United Nations, then how can you think their opponents peaceful remain there? During the Vietnam War, about 1 million Vietnamese have been killed by the US forces. There was no sign of the United Nations in Vietnam. In this regard, the inactivity of veto system clearly exposes to us. The Americans used their power of veto effectively during the Vietnam War, and that makes the blockage of the way of procedure for this organization. Well, my dear friends, if veto goes on this way and that causes similar genocide, then well, you can say it as a procedure of peacekeeping when the immense loss of human lives is allowed as a part of it. It took about 8 years to stop the inter-brother football between Iraq and Iran for this organization. On the other hand, the Gulf War, that was held because of Iraqi aggression to Kuwait. Here we see the active United Nations multinational forces contributed mostly by the Americans. The UN peacekeepers took only 41 days to react. My dear wise fellows, my query is that what are the reasons behind quicker reaction of the United Nations concerning Gulf War? Only a state first chance, then the first pair, then how could it prove more dangerous for global peace? I can understand. If there is no efficient system of focus for the defaulters, then this organization can never be able to maintain global peace on this good earth. So, it may be very simple to you if the Buddha servers will barbarous happiness by killing an international arms ever good Muslim Muslims. Dear audience, can you stay without any feeling about Chechen Muslims? The two consecutive Russian attacks on them, including the last one that was started on 29 October 1999, have made Grozny almost a haunted city. My dear opponents, is there any rise of brotherhood feeling in your mind watching the blood of the Chechen brothers? I don't know, but I think the United Nations, including you, should have it. Kashmir, the heaven in earth, is now in disputed territory. It has already become the cause of 4th Indo-Pak war. Both these countries have achieved the nuclear power. After the last conflict between these two countries held in Dras and Kargil Valley shows the dangerous significance that, if necessary, both these countries will not hesitate to use nuclear power. If UNO thinks this military competition between these two countries will not hamper its peace in this area, then well, the footsteps that it has taken so far.
The League of Nations, the Second World War erupted in 1939. The massive destruction to life and property in the Second World War, leaders of 51 countries met at San Francisco on 24 October 1945 to make an association of independent states. American President Roosevelt named it United Nations. United Nations has got two-fold functions. Firstly, peacemaking. Secondly, peacekeeping. When there is any global tension, the United Nations asks the conflicting parties to settle the issue at conference table. If it is not possible, then the Security Council takes a decision which is obligatory and mandatory for all member states. If required, United Nations Iraq war in 1990 to end war. United Nations came forward to ease the tension in Berlin crisis in 1949, Cuban Missile Crisis in 1964, Iraq war in 1988, Afghan crisis in 1989, where United Nations contributed significantly to end the war. United Nations sent troops to Cambodia, Somalia, Yugoslavia, and various other countries as peace observers. One report of the Daily Star dated 24 October 1998 reported that only in 1995, 5 crore 30 lakh refugees have been cared by United Nations. According to the statistics of Newsweek, more than 130 crore people of the world earn only $1 per day. United Nations has been spending 80% of its budget for removing poverty. On the other hand, UNICEF and WHO have immunized 80% children of poor countries for 6 deadly diseases. The result is, the whole world is free from smallpox. Judicial opponents. Had United Nations not interfered to end the conflict over Kargil crisis in Kashmir, both India and Pakistan would have experienced another war. The liberation of East Timor from Indonesia is now only a matter of time. It is the good office of United Nations which pressed the Indonesian government to pull out its troops from East Timor. The opponent, here is a piece of information for you. Since 1945, United Nations has helped as many as 137 countries to be liberated from colonialism. More than 150 wars took place, but because of United Nations, these wars could not turn into deadly wars. For its contribution to global peace, United Nations has achieved Nobel Prize 6 times. First speaker for the motion spoke about the failure of the United Nations time and again, and I am sure that the other speakers will beat the same drum to announce the failure of the United Nations. Dear friends, remember, it was 2nd August 1990. Iraq declared quit as its 37th province. Buttrus Ghali, then Secretary General, started shuttle diplomacy to and fro, but failed to pursue Saddam Hussein. USA, Britain, and other allies carried out an offensive against Iraq, naming it Desert Storm. And finally, Saddam Hussein considered defeat. It is indeed a great achievement for United Nations. Dear friends, you must know that it is United Nations which compelled General Cedras Raoul of Haiti to hand over the power to the elected government. Is it not a great achievement for United Nations? Please note, United Nations is not a state with a mighty army. It is a forum of independent states. Its success depends on the sincere desire of the member states. Learned opponents, can you cite a single example that any nation has ever quit United Nations even after 50 years? The answer is a big no. Alba Gracia of Nicaragua lost her one hand being shot by a rifle in a civil war. The United Nations peacekeeping force made her an artificial hand from that rifle and gave it back to her. She thinks that the civil war took her hand and they...
Mr. Chairman, founded on October 24, 1945, the United Nations is now completing its 55 years. It's pretty long at times to assess its achievements. And today, the House holds the opinion the United Nations has lost its credibility in harmonizing global peace. And for some valid reasons, I would speak in favor of the motion. Mr. Chairman, the genetics of the UNO undoubtedly marked a new era of hopes and aspirations for global peace and harmony. Since its inception, it has acquired a few very significant objectives. Say, for example, number 1, to ensure peace and security all over the world. Number 2, to promote friendship and cooperation among the nations. And number 3, to safeguard human rights. These objectives of the UNO have got full expression in its charter too. But yet the question arises, could UNO translate its charter into action or realize its objectives? The answer here is often a pessimistic one, dear opponents. Everyone knows the UNO consists of 6 organs. Now a brief discussion is enough to prove the futility of all these organs. Mr. Chairman, the General Assembly, the first organ of the UNO, is simply a debate house. It comments but cannot execute anything. Moreover, what it comments in the most democratic way is often nullified in the most undemocratic way. Would yet my opponents say the General Assembly is very much effective? It simply becomes a chatterbox, and so the UNO loses its credibility. Mr. Chairman, in the Security Council, we see 5 permanent members veto power. Isn't it pathetic that any veto from any of the permanent members ruins the intentions and furthers the aspirations of the rest of all members, and thus of the humanity? Would yet my opponents say the UNO is dependable or credible? Mr. Chairman, the third organ, I mean the Social and Economic Council, has some specialized agencies. Say ILO, IMF, UNICEF, UNESCO, etc., etc. We welcome their humanitarian services, but why do they interfere in the internal affairs of the poor state?
The nations of the world, irrespective of the weak and strong, felt the necessity of worldwide cooperation for the renovation of global peace. To serve this noble end, the United Nations organization was formed on 24th October, comprising of 39 countries. Most esteemed chairperson, learned House, and the August gathering. Today's motion for debate is, the United Nations has lost its credibility in harmonizing global peace. For obvious reasons, I am against today's proposal. 4 prime aims were set for the UN during its birth. 1. To maintain international peace and security and to take effective collective measures for the removal and prevention of threats to peace. 2. To develop friendly relations among nations based on the respect for the principle of equal rights and to undertake measures to strengthen universal peace. 3. To achieve international cooperation in solving international problems of a social, cultural, political or humanitarian character. And 4. To be a center for harmonizing the actions of nations in attainment of these common ends. So we can see that the prime aim of the establishment of the UN was to ensure global peace. Since its birth in 1945, the UN has been doing so successfully. In 1946, it forced the British and French armed forces to leave Syria and Lebanon. The Suez Canal crisis of 1956 was nicely solved by the UN, and principles were worked out to liberate Jordan from the colonial rule of the British during the 1960s. In 1973, a special UN peacekeeping force was constituted to separate and disconnect the Israeli and Egyptian units in the Sinai. In 1993, the United Nations restored peace in Somalia and ensured general elections in Cambodia despite violent protests by the government and rebels. So we can see that in the last 55 years, the United Nations has settled many international problems peacefully. Wherever there is a crisis, the UN is there around the globe.
Second World War, and the League of Nations totally failed to check the devastating violence. It is supposed that since its inception, the UN has been working to harmonize global peace. Now, it is time to evaluate the success and failure of the global guardian in ensuring peace and security. The achievement, as an irony of fate, is far from satisfaction in all the organs of the United Nations. Mr. Chairman and August House, in such critical juncture, today's proposition for the debate is the United Nations has lost its credibility in harmonizing global peace. Hence, for obvious reasons, I have taken my firm stand for the motion. My first opponent has said that the UN has been dealing with different conflicts around the world positively. But, Mr. Chairman, it is a recognized truth that the UN fails to diffuse tension among the warring nations for some obvious reasons. Those are, number one, the United Nations cannot promptly intervene for its negotiations with and approval of the member countries. Number two, the UN cannot directly force the parties to seek for dialogues, let alone the signing of an agreement. Number three, if any agreement is signed, the UN fails to ensure its proper implementation. Number four, in most cases, the emphasis has not been laid on resolving, rather raising the issue. And last, but not the least, the UN as a dummy organization has no troops to deploy quickly in any strife-torn corner of the globe. So these are, among others, the limitations for which the UN has...
The capital of East Timor, Naga Abdulaziz Mian, died in an explosion while diffusing explosives. This brave son of Bangladesh went there as a member of UN force to monitor peace process as in the nation withdraws from Timor. Timor himself, but they shed tears of joy and were proud that our brave soldiers were ready to face, come what may. Honorable President, learned panel of judges, respected teachers, guests, and dear cadets. Timor example is just like the tip of an iceberg that shows the credible activities of the UN, and you can't imagine how much is unknown to you. I'm here to oppose the motion and say that United Nations has not lost its credibility at all in harmonizing global peace. The idea behind organizing the UN was nothing but to establish peace and security of the world had experienced two great wars. Its four objects were to ensure international peace and security, to grow friendly relations among the nations, to solve international economic, social and humanitarian problems, and finally to work as a coordinator among all the nations. By analyzing all these points, it becomes obvious that UN has made three kinds of activities: political, economic and social. Dear opponents, you have talked so much about UN failure, but I have two questions to ask. Number one, can you deny the successes that saved millions of people from hunger, disease, death and destruction? Number two, do you think UN is solely responsible for all the failures? One of my opponents has talked about Kashmir dispute. For your kind information, the proposal of the UN for a site was discarded by India in 1948, and Soviet Union gave a veto in support of India, and for this Kashmir issue remains unsolved even today. Look at the globe. From Sierra Leone to Fiji, Bosnia to Namibia, and in Central America, UN missions are on supervision, directly or indirectly. Don't you feel proud to see Bangladeshi troops wearing UN helmets, patrolling the Arabian Desert, guarding the strategically most important Twingi Valley in Sierra Leone, or observing the situations in the snow-covered Bosnia-Herzegovina? For your information, only last week, Bangladesh has been highly applauded by the UN for her participation in the peacekeeping mission in 9 countries, which was the maximum for any country. Till today, UN has made more than 300 peace agreements, arranged 172 ceasefires, and stopped 8 impending operations. How could all this be possible? Can you imagine what would happen if the UN kept silent? The most interesting point
brother's father and mother. Father was old and the youngest brother was earning and bearing the expenses of the family. One day, 6 brothers, including their mother, went to the father and reported against the bad activities of the youngest brother. But the father remained silent.
The cause is though the father was the theoretical head of the family, but practically the youngest brother was the father. And the audience, this is actually what has happened to the United Nations organization. As the father lost his fathership, the United Nations organization has also lost its guardianship. Mr. Chairman, Honorable Panel of Judges, and August House there. Today in the debate competition, the selected topic is the United Nations organization has lost its credibility in harmonizing the global peace. For some certain reasons, I strongly support the proposition. Mr. Chairman, as my previous debaters have already mentioned about the aims, objectives and creation of UNO, so avoiding repetition, I want to focus on the failures of UNO and why it has lost its credibility. My third opponent has told us a lot of things about the sovereignty of United Nations organization. But dear opponent, you are supposed to know that UNO is not an independent body. It is made up of member states. All of UNO's expenses come from them. Then how do you expect neutrality from one who depends on others? Obviously, UNO has to oblige them who nurture them. In this connection, the name of USA comes first. About 70% of UNO's budget is financed by USA, and USA spending this huge amount of money as an investment to gain their political ends. Thus, USA becomes the de facto controller of UNO. The de facto controller of UNO. And the Secretary General of UNO is just a titular. Is it not a disgrace for the United Nations organization, my dear opponents? The answer is certainly a big yes. My first opponent told us about the peacekeeping forces. But the opponent, of course I don't want to say that UNO is sitting idle. It is doing some welfare activities in the affected areas. But the opponent's prevention is always better than a cure. Millions of people are suffering in many places of the world. People are dying in Bosnia, Somalia, Kosovo and Sierra Leone. About Bosnia, a diplomat of the European Security Council told that what we have in Yugoslavia is peacekeeping, peacemaking or peace enforcement. From this verse it is quite clear that UNO has totally failed to solve
UN's ongoing progress in stabilizing peace. And of course, different nations are the beneficiaries of the United Nations peacekeeping ventures around the world. Mr. Chairman, so long I have been listening to the facts and arguments of my opponents. I was astonished to feel their paradoxical view, denying the cumulative success and achievements in uplifting the norms of peaceful existence of human race under the head of the United Nations organization. And certainly, I would like to speak against the motion of today's topic. The United Nations has lost its credibility in harmonizing global peace. Dear opponents, since the dawn of civilization, man has to experience two contrasting panoramas of its survival, the oppressor and the oppressed. Hitler said, in question of existence, the deciding factor is whether we trade our enemies or we will be trodden by them. But in pragmatic terms, longing for peace is an inherent goal of human beings. So, the failure of the League of Nations stimulated the conscience of the world politicians to establish the United Nations. And since its establishment in 1945, the United Nations has successfully handled various crises and numerous conflicts in many parts of the world. Dear opponents, you must have to admit that Libya, Indonesia, Indochina got independence under the direct rule of the United Nations. The United Nations has played a vital role for establishing international development, peace and harmony. Dear opponents, don't you know the amazing relationship between Greece, Albania and Bulgaria? It was possible only by the help of the United Nations. Dear opponents, the Palestine Liberation War, the conflict between Arab and Israel, the problem of Suez Canal, all these international problems are realistically solved by the United Nations as per the Universal Declaration of Human Rights of the world. Few days ago, the most expected peace talk between Ehud Barak and Yasser Arafat was held under the mediation of US President Bill Clinton. But why not under the mediation of Kofi Annan? The UNO was supposed to be there. The fact is, nowadays, the USA is playing the role of the peacekeeper, and the UNO is just playing the role of an observer. Honorable Chairperson and the August House, for the most obvious reasons, I firmly stand for today's motion. Dear opponents, there is no doubt that the United Nations has miserably failed to ensure global peace. Only a few examples will make it clear. It didn't wake up to the genocide of Bosnia-Herzegovina, Rwanda, Burundi and attacking Kosovo. It failed to achieve any peaceful solution in Kashmir, Middle East and many other issues. These are all hot topics of discussion all over the world. How can it support the United Nations in all these horrible troubles, my opponents? Dear opponents, after the end of the Cold War, at present the UNO is completely within the grip of the USA. Truly, it has become an institute of USA. According to the 30th October issue of 1995 Newsweek, the USA controls the UNO too much. As a result, the UNO was compelled to allow US Army to be deployed and make genocide in Vietnam. Was the action of the United Nations in the interest of global peace? I'm sure everybody will answer, never. What will my opponents say? Again, in June-July 1998, NATO bombed on the no-fly zone area in Iraq. But the UNO at least couldn't take any resolution against the motion against USA. We can understand the attitude of USA about UNO by the speech of ex-US Secretary of State Henry Kissinger. He said, "Don't bother me with that UN crap." A worsen situation there and to keep control over the arms market and oil fields. Again, Russia is veto power in Bosnia issue because they consider the existence of a Muslim suffering people all over the world. Can my opponent deny this fact, Mr. Chairperson? Now, the expansion of nuclear weapons has become a threat for world peace. Can the United Nations compel the superpowers?
UNICEF, UNDP, etc. trying their best to stop the world and make the world happy. Not only this, but also the rights of women and the downtrodden, that is the laborers, are now figured in society. And behind all these things, only one organization is working. It is the United Nations. Respected chairman, judicial judges, and all the audience. The topic for debate today is the United Nations has lost its credibility in harmonizing global peace, and my stand is against the motion. Dear opponents, you must have observed that no great wars have taken place after the Second World War, though 55 years have already passed. Whereas the world witnessed two devastating world wars in only 25 years, when there was no United Nations. Dear opponents, as a student of statistics, the comparison is very clear to me, but I think it is getting very difficult for you to understand. But believe me, it is the UN which is still protecting the world from the greatest curse of war. Dear opponents, take a short look at the history of the world for the last 50 years. You'll see some new countries in the map of the world. And it is the UN which has played a very vital role for the independence of the countries like Indonesia and Namibia. For East Timor, the UN has been the mediator, and this very country is about to achieve her independence in a very short span of time. Opponents, don't forget, the liquidation of colonialism from Asia and Africa are the result of German states were united again. And behind all these things, only one name comes forward, and it is the United Nations. Dear opponents, your first, third, and fifth speaker has said that USA, that is the superpowers, are controlling the United Nations. But my dear opponents, no other organization or country in this world could have made USA and the superpowers to sign on the disarmament treaty. But UN has successfully made them to sign on the disarmament treaty, and as a result of it, our world is safer than ever before. Now, in answer to the question of the fourth and fifth speaker, I would like to inform you that before thinking of the war torn the nations, take a short look at a single family. There you see that there are sometimes disagreements of opinions among the family members.
Also declare the result of into cadet college in this debate competition. Sir, please.
Distinguished guests, dear cadets. We have just enjoyed a very lively debate, but I should say that we would have enjoyed a more lively debate because the points had not been diffused correctly and properly. The participants for the motion and against the motion spoke in their own ways. They did not take into account the points the opponents presented before them, what debate is and what it should be. The intermediate students know that they have a poem in their syllabus, Two Daffodils by Robert Herrick. Here the poet says that daffodils bloom in the morning and die away with his inward eyes, because these are the simple flowers of nature and they are found there in their true form. So they are the symbol of beauty and life. So these two facts, contradictory to each other, mean that they have the two different angles of looking at things. For this, the daffodils can become both the symbol of life and beauty and the symbol of decay and death. These two facts combine the whole truth. So this also has happened in the debate, in this particular debate and debate in general, that two opponent parties see the things from two different angles, but they come to the truth. For example, we would like to say here in the debate, one of the participants who spoke in favor of the motion
he says that the United Nations, the leadership of the nations, are the puppets in the hands of superpower. And at the same time, another participant who spoke against the motion, who also says that the failures of United Nations, the United Nations itself is not responsible. The responsibility lies with the superpowers. So they agreed from two different angles. They come to an agreeing point that United Nations itself is not responsible for its failures. This is how we come to the point. For example, the last participant who spoke in favor of the motion, he says that when a compromise formula is to be evolved between the two parties, Israel and Palestine, the mediator should be Kofi Annan, the Secretary General of the United Nations. But in fact, we find that the mediator has become the powerful president of the world, the president of the USA, Bill Clinton. It means that the United Nations has no power to exercise. But again, who spoke against the motion, they say that it is the most effective, one participant, I cannot exactly name, he said that it is the most effective organization to maintain peace. He or she speaks in the superlative degree, but one should remember that one must not speak in the superlative degree because one wants to find or seek the truth. Say, for example, the last speaker of the who spoke against the motion, he says that let opponents like them be kept in the Jew. And one must not say in such a decent way. Why should they be kept in Jew? Because they submitted their point, and that should not be. They should not be suggested to be sent to the Jew. This is their point. This is their line of argument.